Welcome to another episode of Trail Profit, where we talk things small and mid-sized business to try to help you increase the profits of your business. Today we're going to be talking about specifically why might a business owner look to get into commercial real estate. Now, as we start here, I'm not on the trails today just because it was super windy, so noise was a factor, and I have the top off, so I got a Bimmy cover up here, so just that time of year. So let's get right into it with the first reason somebody might get into commercial real estate, their own building, for lack of a better word, is you won't be paying your lease payment to somebody else. You'll be paying it to yourself. So and lease payments, it seems like here, at least in my area, continue to rise at a significant pace. So you won't have to worry about those rent increases, at least not too much, unless you, as a business owner, raises the lease on your business. But so that's the first reason, not having to worry about those rent increases. The lease payment that you pay, the business pays to you, goes directly to you, of course, after you cover your expenses. So that's the one of the major ways commercial real estate is really advantageous to an owner-occupied type situation. So let's talk about the second reason why you'd want to potentially get into a building is that it's your own space. And so what does that mean? Well, let's just say the landlord doesn't allow you to have certain signage, or maybe they don't bring in certain things that you need for your building to operate your business at peak performance. You get a layout the way you want it to lay out. So it just gives you that freedom to basically use the spaces you would want to, and not necessarily how the landlord says that you have to use the space. So the third reason we're going to talk about here is you don't have to worry about the landlord selling the business from out from under you, and now you have a new landlord that you might have to deal with. So if maybe you're on a lease where it gives you an option to buy the building, that's great if it does, but oftentimes you don't have that flexibility, you don't have that option, and so that could pose a real problem if you're dealing with a new landlord that maybe is not as great as the last one, or who knows. There can be a tremendous amount of upheaval when you get that new landlord. So just keep that in mind. Another thing that is really advantageous is you're building equity in your property and not your landlord's. And so when you make those lease payments, especially if you get debt to buy the building, every time you make that payment, you're building equity. In addition, you're building appreciation. Over time, that building will become more and more valuable, as long as you keep up with the maintenance of that building and it stays sellable. You'll be able to, hopefully in years to come, sell that building more than you bought it for. And I'm not a tax professional, so check with your own tax professional as far as this next reason why you'd want to get into your own commercial real estate building, whether it's office space, industrial, retail, whatever it is, whatever type of business you do, is the tax advantages. Again, talk with your own tax professional, but typically speaking, you can deduct a lot of different things as far as mortgage interest, as far as depreciation, property taxes, sometimes improvements, all of that kind of stuff can hopefully be tax deductible and save you there on some outlay of taxes. This is one I see often, is somebody sells, so they're operating a business in their own location, but they get to the point where they want to retire. So kind of a cool thing is you could sell that business, keep the building, and then lease that building to the new owner of the business that you were operating in. So it allows you to still get some income in on a monthly basis, even though you might not necessarily own the business still. So it's just a way to diversify your income. And we'll talk a little bit more about that here in just one minute. Let's just say it's a good sized building. Let's just say it's an industrial building and you only use a certain portion of that building. Well, that's great. Now you can lease the other portion and help make that, let's just say you have debt on it, make that payment. And even if you don't have debt, that money goes directly into your pocket. So that's a really great way to make some additional income. Is if you have space that you're not using, then lease that out. Or another reason to own it is, let's just say the same scenario, you have a really big building but you're not using all of it. Well, as you grow, you can occupy more and more of that building as time goes on, thus allowing you to have greater capacity in your business in which you operate. I've seen this multiple times where somebody gets a building, buys a building, for their business. Their business is doing great to the point where they've outgrown that building. And so what they'll often do is they'll often keep that building, lease it out, and then go into the next building that suits their business a little bit better. So now they own two pieces of commercial real estate. So that's definitely an option. Or if you didn't want to do that, sell the existing building to help you fund the bigger building. So that's another avenue in which you can utilize the equity that you've built up in that first building. The next reason why you'd want to potentially look at getting a piece of commercial real estate for your business is the diversification of income. Now, we kind of talked about that just a little bit, but as a business owner, you're making income off of your business, right? But as that business owner, you could also, again, instead of paying a landlord, pay that money to yourself in the form of a lease payment. So how a lot of folks set these up is they have typically, let's just say you're running your business as a C Corp, S Corp, whatever, even a sole proprietor, whatever. Most people put their real estate into a real estate holding company, an LLC of some type. And so now you've got two entities in which you're making income. So you've diversified your income, so income streams. And that can be huge for a lot of folks, bringing in that extra income. And then we kind of already talked about it, but just to reiterate it, the next reason is just, capacity. Especially if you're in retail, location, right? But let's just say you're building widgets and you're doing great and you find that, you run out of space, you're leasing something. Well, getting into your own building allows you to increase your capacity, allows you to increase production, which helps you increase sales. So that's always a boon for business, to be able to increase your production, increase income. So those are just a number of ways in which a business owner might look at purchasing their own building instead of maybe leasing or renting, or even there's so many businesses that start in a garage, right? But why you would move up into your own piece of commercial real estate. In the next episode, what we're going to talk about specifically is how would you get into your own commercial building? How would you go about maybe financing that? How would you get started in that process? So we'll talk about that in the next episode. In the meantime, if there's any questions you want answered, please put them in the comments. Appreciate a like and a subscribe to the channel here, and we'll look forward to our next episode. Thanks for watching.